All right, hey gang, back again to talk about some functions here, and what I want to do right now is I want to help you with some of your homework assignments. So right now you have 1-7 word problems, and you also have, I think it's some skilled practice that you're going to be working on for me, okay? And so I picked out a couple problems that I think could be problematic, and I want to make sure I head those off right now, and then hopefully you can be able to do the rest of the worksheet on your own. So taking a look at number 5, let's just go right to number 5 and let's take a look at this one here. And here's what it says. It says consumer choices. Aisha just received a $40 paycheck for her new job. She spends some of it buying music online and saves the rest in a bank account. Her saving her savings is given by the function f of x is equal to 40 minus 1.25x, where x is the number of songs that she downloaded at $1.25 or $1.25 per song. Okay? Graph the function. All right, now first of all, what I ended up doing was trying to figure out what the axes are going to be. Okay? And so as we look at this, let's see here, why is it? Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and say that this is her savings right here. Okay, and that this is the number of song downloads that she's going to do. Okay, so let's see here. I guess for each one, I went up to 40 on each of these, the x and the y. So if I do that, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So if I go up 5 each time, there's 10, 20, 30, and 40. And same with this one. Okay. Now I want to go back to this function. Remember how I said that the f of x is a fancy way of saying y, basically? If I was to write this out, I'm going to rewrite this in a way that I think will be better for you guys understanding how to graph it. So I don't know if you guys graphed the equation of lines last year in pre-algebra, okay? Meaning like y equals mx plus b. I don't know if that sounds familiar to you. It's going to become very familiar this year, but let me teach you something a little bit on how to graph these lines. So in looking at this problem right here, this equation, I'm going to put the x first, but I'm going to convert this to a fraction. 1.25 is the same as 1 1/4. Okay, you'll see why in just a second. And then we have a positive 40. So that's the equation of the line. Now technically you could go to Desmos, and we'll talk more about that if you haven't used Desmos before, but you can go to Desmos and graph that right now. But I want to change this into an improper fraction because that helps me to see the rise and the run, because remember, this is the slope and this is the y-intercept. So if I convert this to an improper fraction, I take this number times this number and then add this to get my numerator. So 4 times 1 is 4, plus 1 is 5, so we have this right here, okay? The y-intercept is 40, okay? So I'm going to put 40 right here as my y-intercept, and we have negative 5/4. Okay, so if I think about that, let's see here. 4 goes into 40 10 times. Let's see here, 5/4. Negative 50. No, let's see. Well, negative 5/4. Each of these is 5, and this is over 4. Negative 5 over 4. Now I'm 2 less. Negative 5 over 4. Now I'm 3 less. Negative 5 over 4. Now I'm 4 less. Negative 5 over 4. Now I'm an entire. There we go. Negative 5 over 4. Negative 5 over 4. And then negative 5 over 4. Okay, so this is just an approximate drawing of what I believe the graph will look like. I'll use my straight edge here to get that in play right there, okay? And then from there, we can go ahead and start to answer some of these other questions. So find f of 3. Now remember, if we have f of 3, we're just going to plug in 3 for the x. So you could actually leave it like this, okay, and plug that into your calculator, and you could determine what f of 3 is going to be. F of 18 and f of 36. Now just an observation here. Before I plug in f of 36, this is 30, this is 35. If we're at 36, okay, then if the x value is 36, I'm going to say the y value is negative. Miss Aisha should not be buying 36 songs a week if she's only making $30 a week. So, okay. So, in taking a look at that, these values, 36.25, okay, with 3 songs. Let's see if that makes sense. So here's 5. 3 is about right here. Okay, let's see here. 5, 3. We're just slightly above, right in there. So yeah, there's 35. So it's, 36.25, somewhere close. Okay. 18 songs would give me a 1750. Okay. So again, 18 songs, we're up close to 20. If I go on up here, it looks like it's just above 15. Yep, 18, somewhere right in there. Again, that's an approximate line. And then 36 songs gives me a negative $5. No good, right? We'd be below, and we'd already talked about that. The next one says, how many songs can Aisha, oops, sorry about that. Didn't realize I was off the graph there, or off the camera. How many songs can Aisha buy if she wants to save $30? Well, if she wants to save $30, we can guesstimate it right here. Okay, it looks like it's somewhere between 5 and 10 songs, but I don't know exactly. So what could I do? Well, I could go ahead and plug in 30 for the Y, because that's what we want, 30 songs, okay, $30 savings, sorry. How many songs? So 40 minus 1.25x, okay? Now, we haven't really worked on these this year yet, and you may remember some from last year, but let me kind of walk you through this. In order to solve for x, we want to get this guy by itself. So I'm going to take this 40 and get him to the other side, but you always have to do the opposite of what's currently there. What's currently there is 40, so I'm going to change that to negative 40. So I have negative 10 equals negative 1.25x. Well, if I go through this operation, negative 1.25, what's it doing to the x? They're multiplying. So I'm going to do the opposite of multiplication, which is division. I'm going to divide by negative 1.25. So in the end, x is going to be equal to 8 songs, okay? So if you want the chance to save $30 a week, Aisha, you can download up to 8 songs there. And it goes back to our graph here. We said it was between 5 and 10. You may have guessed 7.5 or 7, 8, somewhere in there, okay? So yeah, that's how you would work out that problem there. Now, taking a look at the next page, this is really based on what we've talked about as far as functions. What is a function? Remember I said for every input, there can only be one output. And so when I look at the first section, determine whether each relation is a function, okay? This part right here, I mean, any of these, I would go ahead and probably make them into a mapping problem. So remember we said about mapping, we can go ahead and list these, and I'll list them from least to greatest, negative 4, and then we got 2, 3, and then 5. You only list them once. And then over here, you have from least to greatest, negative 3, negative 2, 2, 5, and 7. Okay? And if we map these, we have here, We have 2 goes to 7. 3 goes to 5. And 5 goes to both 2 and -3. And if we look here, this 5, we don't know what the outcome is. Is it 2 or is it -3? So I'm going to say that number 5 is negative. That's a no. That is not a function, okay? You could also, I didn't even think about this when we first started, you could graph these in Desmos, and as long as you can use the vertical line test, you can, tell even more quickly, probably, if you can graph them quickly, than mapping this, okay? Same thing with number 7 and 8. If you want to graph them in Desmos, or if you want to map them, you can easily tell whether it's going to be a function or not. Numbers 9 and 10, again, I would graph those in Desmos and use your vertical line test and see if it's going to be a function or not, okay? All right, now, moving down to the last section right here, we have to evaluate these. So in number 18, I chose this one because it's got a negative and we've got a squared. So if we're going to do g of -3, that's going to be -3 squared minus -3, okay? The parentheses are so important. I had a student tell me a couple of years ago when they were in Algebra 2, I've realized now how important parentheses are, and they're right. They are very, very important. So when you do this, I'll do this real in a slow manner. -3 squared is -3 times -3. What's -3 times -3? It's a +9, okay? And now we have a minus -3. What's a minus and negative? I think when you guys like to use the term keep, change, flip, okay? And so they both become, it just becomes plus. A double negative, I like to say, it becomes a positive. So in the end, your answer is going to be 9 plus 3, which is 12, okay? If we go down the way to number 23, g of -1 plus 4, you're going to evaluate this, and then you're going to apply this, okay? So g of -1 would actually be -1 squared minus -1. And then we're going to add 4. Okay? So what we end up getting here is this. This is -1 times -1 minus -1 plus 4. And there's your answer for number 23. If we go with number 24, we have f of x plus 1. So I'm going to substitute this back up here for the x. So it would be 3 f of x plus 1 plus 2. Now to get rid of the parentheses, again, that's a plus 2, not a times 2. I'm going to distribute this into the parentheses. And then I'm going to just combine the like terms here. And there's my answer, okay? So I hope that made sense, folks. Again, just trying to provide you with some information that will help you along the way. So I will see you tomorrow. Have a good night.